Mountain State Mysteries contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. All individuals mentioned in this episode are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Hey y'all, Mark here. Today's episode is a little different. I got to sit down with my friend Alexandrea from APAW, Unsolved in West Virginia, which is honestly, it's one of my favorite YouTube channels. She deep dives into cases like I have never seen before. She is one of a kind, and she brought a case that to me needs so much attention that I felt like if I told it, it wouldn't do it justice. So I had her come into the Mountain State Mystery Studio and tell the case. So this is the case of Jack Denny.
Hi, I'm APAW. I run a YouTube channel for missing people, APAW Unsolved in West Virginia. I am starting to cover Kentucky cases too, so if you have anybody in West Virginia or Kentucky that are missing or unsolved cases, you can get a hold of me. I don't know, should I go into like how I got into this, I guess?
Sure. I love how you got into this.
Okay. I got into this fairly young. With my stepmom, I would watch all the updates on the Scott Peterson case and Lacey Peterson. I remember just sitting in my stepmom's bedroom, and while she was doing her hair, we'd have it on the TV and stuff like that. And even at, I think I was like 8, I don't know how old I was then, but we would be talking about what we thought happened to her then. And it maybe not great to put that in an 8-year-old's mind, but that's what really sparked it. And then when I was about 19 or 20, I had a friend that I used to go to parties with that dated one of my closer friends that ended up going missing after a party after he got into a fight with someone. And he was found 3 months later across the road from where he was found, like across the interstate, or where he went missing, across the interstate from that. And the police ruled it as hypothermia and a drug overdose, and never really looked into it. Told his family they could pay for the stuff if they wanted to, but they weren't doing any more. And the family was fairly poor, so they just really didn't have enough to look into it. They got a toxicology report, which showed he had no drugs, or I don't think any alcohol in his system either. So once that happened and that became public, it really just sparked me really wanting to look into these cases, because I couldn't necessarily trust that the police were doing everything they could, because I blatantly watched this one handled that way, you know?
Yeah.
And so that really, it just sparked me getting into this stuff. I went to school for it. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a minor in psychology, but unless you want to work for the police force, there's not really much you can do with missing cases. So I do this mostly on the side, just honestly out of the kindness of my heart, I guess. I don't really get paid for it or anything,
Right.
But it's a passion, and I think it's something that we need in this area. I think, families of missing person cases, even, and I'm sure you know this, like, even if you don't find answers, they're so appreciative of you. Like, they are just I don't know, like, I can't explain the happiness they have that someone still wants to talk about their missing person, and people, or a person that people think's completely forgotten about. And unfortunately, if these cases aren't constantly in your face on the news, on social media, they do get forgotten because they're not part of your life. So like your brain kind of compartmentalizes that. And so I think it's really important for people like us to really, not just work with the families, but keep these cases alive, because there's not always people that do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, me and you both know Christy,
Yes.
Brenda Gail Lambert's sister. And I mean, she is a
Christy.
force to be reckoned with.
That girl is wild.
Yeah, I will do anything.
I'm going to save money just for bail for her, because she's going to need it one day.
Same. I will literally do whatever she tells me to. Because,
easily. Heartbeat.
She is one of a kind.
She is.
I love her.
She is. And I don't know if you know the Luke Stout case at all, but I worked really closely with his family. And before his mother died, she reminded me a lot of Christy, because like, of course, she still fought to find Luke and all that stuff, but she's the one who made the Missing in West Virginia Facebook page. She was getting all these names out here, not just her son. She was fighting for any missing person in West Virginia. And there's a lot of people, family members of missing people in West Virginia, that know Elizabeth Stout, because she worked so hard to keep these names out there. And it's always so nice when you meet family like Elizabeth, like Christy, that yes, they work for their case too, but they're working for others because they understand it and they know how hard it is. And I think that just like makes people just, I don't know, like a notch higher in my heart.
That's how the daughters of James Lee Haynes,
yeah.
They are searching for him, but they're not stopping with him.
Yeah.
They're wanting to get an unknown person that was found. And one count exhumed, and then just to where the family can have closure too, because if it's not their dad, it could be someone else. And I mean, that family doesn't know where their person is.
That's another whole group of people that nobody thinks about, but like John Does and Jane Does. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I really can't imagine.
Yeah, when we covered the Beckley John Doe case, I'm like, why are we not out here doing DNA testing? It would be so easy.
Yes.
But they always want to say funding and stuff. Yeah. Which...
But a lot of volunteers say they don't have to.
Yeah.
And they still won't take it. I don't know.
Because you have, I know the TV show they do, it's Naming the Dead. They basically do everything, I think. Yeah. And I've watched like one episode of it. Me and Courtney were actually going to do a watch party for it, but then life happened. Yeah. And it kind of just turned into me like, why are we not doing this in this state? Yeah. Like, it kills me. Like, you had, like, Margie Dodd. Yeah. Her body just sat.
Just sat there, yeah.
And ironically, last Friday, I got to meet the guy who found her.
Really?
He came to search for James.
Yeah.
And we all were like, watch him go find another body.
I know, right? I have some questions about that, but...
Same. And because for a little bit, they thought Margie was James until they realized it was a woman.
But I thought they thought she was also another woman.
They thought she was also Sue Rope.
Oh, okay,
for years. Yeah, until I think it was passed down to another person. They're like, this same period clothing, but let's have, Margie Dodd's husband come in, and he's like 3 seconds knew it was her.
Man, that's good for him, but I can't imagine how hard it was.
93 to 2017.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so what case did you want to start with? Because I know you have a few for us today.
Yes. Okay, so today we're going to start with one that I'm sure you guys might have heard me talk about already. I have it on my channel, and I was just on Creepalachia talking about it a little bit. The Jack Denny case. He has a daughter named Chloe, who I mostly say I'm doing this for because, I mean, she's 17 and doesn't know what happened to her dad. I can't even imagine. And her mom had reached out to me, gosh, it must have been over a year ago now, and just really asked me for help. She was at a brick wall. She couldn't find anything else out, and she didn't feel like anybody was really doing anything for this case. And so she reached out to me. We had followed each other on Instagram for years, and she had been seeing what I was doing. And, she just really touched me with the way she talked about wanting to help her daughter find answers. Like, I'm a mom, so that stuff really touches me. And I can't imagine. And I would hope, somebody would fight like that for my kids if something would happen for me like that. And so, yeah, she really, man, she's went through it with me the past year and a half looking into this. And she's done a lot of legwork in this too. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to talk about Jack first. I do want to go ahead and put the preface out there that nobody has been arrested or really, as we can tell, looked into this case. So everyone's innocent till proven guilty, so you don't get sued.
Right. Right. It's all alleged.
Yes. I'm going to try to leave most names out because a lot of people wanted to stay anonymous that reached out to me. There were a lot of people that reached out to me, though. There was over 20 people that came to me talking to me about like what Jack was saying before he went missing, what they talked about. They sent me a lot of screenshots of like their conversations with him in that last month. And so I've sent that all to you. Okay. Yeah. So all of that. And so I'm not going to mention anybody's names that's brought me information, just, respect for them. I will mention his girlfriend at the time he went missing. They were on and off, so it's kind of unclear whether they were on or off at the time that he went missing. But I'll mention her first name, but we just won't say her last name, because she hasn't been charged with anything or anything like that. So yeah, let's get into Jack. Jack, I'll give you a physical description first. He was a white male. He was about 33 years old when he went missing. He was about 6 foot, 6'2", around 150 to 170 pounds. He is thought to have short brown hair at the time he went missing, but he is known to have longer hair too. And he's thought to be clean shaven when he went missing. He went missing from Hanley, West Virginia. He was hitchhiking, and he was known to be intelligent and he loved really deeply, but he did have about 3 versions of himself that people describe. They describe like the kid, the fun-loving, sweet type person. And then there was like the beast, which we think of as like his mental health struggles and stuff like that. And then like the real him. He enjoyed camping, but he was, from his words, a recreational drug user. Some people say he was an addict because he's been using since high school, from what I understand. But, here nor there, I guess. But yeah, he was known to dabble in drugs. He did have 2 tattoos. He had one on his chest and one on his lower side. And then his family it's a little bit complicated. His biological mother is named Beth. I never got a hold of her. She is also an addict, so she was just very difficult to get a hold of. And I think she really struggles with this. So I'm not really sure if part of that was she just wasn't ready to open those wounds again. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I couldn't get a hold of her. And then he has a sister named Alyssa that I had also heard. It's just really hard for her to talk about this case. So I didn't necessarily bother to reach out to her because, I don't want to open wounds where people don't need them open again. But he was the closest to his grandma. He lived with his grandma. That's who he called mom. And his grandma had lost her son when the son was 18, and Jack was named after him. So from what I understand, that was like her second chance, like she really, she wanted to raise him. Her name was Anne, and she was just everything to Jack. Jack, worshiped the ground she walked on. From what we can tell, his mom had a little bit of issues, so he did have a little bit of a troubled childhood. I won't go into all the trauma, but it caused him to have trust issues in relationships, crappy self-esteem, and some mental health issues. He didn't ever believe he deserved to be loved, which was something that he struggled with, especially in relationships. And he did have family in Indiana, and I only bring that up just in case we mention Indiana later. That could be a possible place people thought he might have went at first. And like I said, he had a daughter named Chloe. Like I said, he had a hard time growing up. A few of his childhood friends told me some pretty traumatic things that I won't really get into here. It's not necessary, I guess. But, things that caused some trauma for sure. And caused him to go end up living with his grandma because clearly things had gotten bad with Jack's mom. But the family was super religious, so the grandma didn't necessarily seek like mental health treatment for Jack. She just kind of assumed if I get him in church, get him into the Christian faith, talk to a pastor, everything will be fine.
Basically pray it away.
Yeah. And I think in her generation, because you gotta think she was the grandma, that probably she did think worked, right? Like, I don't think she consciously knew she was doing anything wrong, but I do think there's just some things that religion's not going to help with, and we don't know, since he didn't really go see a therapist, if there was underlying issues like bipolar or schizophrenia, anything like that, because he never saw a professional. And that stuff's not going to be fixed by praying.
Yeah.
That's just not it. But around when Jack was 17, Beth came to live with him and his grandma, and he did not handle this well. And ultimately, we think he moved out at that time. And this is really what people think triggered Jack into using a lot of pills at that time. And like I said, he was known to use drugs in school, but there was like an uptick in it at this point. He did have plans for his future. Like he hadn't made steps towards it yet, but he had talked to friends about wanting to have like an HVAC business and stuff like that. So we know he was trying somewhat to plan a future. We just don't know how far that really got. And he was also known to frequent Montgomery, Smithers, Boomer, Fayetteville. And like I said, he did have ties to Indiana. So Jack had a lot of girlfriends. And I don't mean that in a shady way, but there was just a lot of girls that got a hold of me that had some type of thing with Jack at one point. And they all seemed to end on good terms, though. I found that really interesting.
Which is rare.
Yeah. Like a lot of them, I mean, he still considered friends, and you could see that in like his messages that they still cared about each other, but like maybe not in a relationship way, but they were still close. And, he could reach out to them for help, and it was, no problem, except for obviously one that we'll talk about. But like, it was interesting, like that. Most people, like when they're done, they just cut it off, and he just wasn't like that. And I'm not going to go into all the girlfriends he had because we'd be here all day, but I will go into one before Tessa, because this one just kind of bleeds into Tessa. It's like how they started. He had a girlfriend named Kylie, and her and Jack were together. They lived in Illinois for a little bit of time. They had like an apartment together up there. I think it might have been for her work. I'm not really sure why they were up there, because she was from Madison. But she pulled in to drop Jack off one time, and there was like two women starting to scream at her and coming towards her car. And I mean, like coming swinging, like punching. She had no idea what was going on. And they even had she had to take a shovel to kind of like beat them away. And so she could at least get in the car. And Jack just came running down the stairs, and his mom was there. So she kind of assumed it had to do with drugs. And at this point, she kind of assumed Jack was doing drugs in the apartment with his mom, because she knew his mom was on meth at this point. And she thought, well, maybe that's what Jack was doing too at that time. And so there was already some rockiness in the relationship. But then Tessa's husband at the time messaged her on Facebook in November 2019 and said he was pretty sure that Jack was cheating on her with his wife. And, that kind of rocked her world a little bit. And she said a couple months later, she came in to visit family in Madison, and a neighbor from Illinois called and said Tessa had went up there and was in the apartment with Jack while she was home. And so, that kind of
Yeah.
ended things.
Yeah.
She said she did let Jack stay long enough to get enough money for a different place. Like, she wasn't like just kicked him out, but they didn't really stay on good terms like a lot of them. She said the last time she talked to him was actually March 6, 2020. But, you know, she didn't have ill will. There was like nothing she would have done bad towards him. She was just kind of done with that point in her life, which then leads, you know, to Tessa. From what I understand, and I talked to Tessa a little bit, not very much. She would never talk in detail about this, but we would, you know, it was hard. Like, she would reach out saying she wanted to help, and when I would go to schedule an interview, radio silence. Or we would schedule it, it would come time, and I'd say, hey, are you ready? Or, you know, if I'd try to call, nothing.
Right.
It was really weird.
Yeah,
but,
which, I mean, I've dealt with that some in a case.
It's a little off-putting sometimes, but it is what it is. But she's likable. That's the weird thing. Like, she's likable. I don't know, you get a good feeling about her. She's kind of, I don't want to say fun to talk to because I didn't talk to her a whole lot, but she's easy to talk to when she talks to you. So like a lot of people did like her around this town, and I think still do. I mean, you get on her Facebook and I mean, she's still getting like, you know, she'll post a picture and get like 200 likes on it. So like there's people that still like Tessa around, and she, you know, is kind of a little bit off the rails now, but you know, you can see why people gravitated to her when you talk to her, even if it's just a few message exchanges. And so you kind of saw, for me, it was like I could see what Jack saw in her.
Right.
Now, she is like, and I wonder if this is a big reason I can never get a hold of her, because, you know, my bedtime's like 10:30.
Right.
Like, I'm tapped out by that point, and I'm not even looking at my phone half the time after that. But she's like a creature of the night. Like, she's up all night long, from what I understand. So I've always kind of wondered if that was part of why we never like connected. But I mean, I tried to do later calls with her, and she still would never answer me on whether she could do them or not answer when I called. So I don't know. But Jack and Tessa, when they got together, it was very toxic. I mean, very, very toxic. And this is where it's really going to start talking about, in his words, her. I want to preface again, I've never talked to her about any of this. So everything I say is from Jack's point of view, because I'm going off like screenshots and stuff. So yeah, not from Tessa's point of view at all. Now, everything I talk about, just for your sake, Mark, I have in there the screenshots of what he's saying. Like, these are mostly his words about Tessa. Jack and Tessa were very toxic together. Like I said, he described her as very mentally unwell, said that she would take his stuff and then call him crazy, and like, you know, when he would try to get it back or like ask where it was. But he also said she was misunderstood, and he would have done anything to help save her from herself. And that he just really wished he didn't bring the worst out of her because he loved her so deeply. He said that he was not mentally right anymore after dealing with Tessa. Said that he had no friends, he had no family, that he lost everyone when he got with her, and slowly just isolated and alienated him until it was just her. That's it. And started, in his words, started to demand his time like a servant.
Was it like that with her husband? That
I never saw much about her husband. What's interesting is, this is kind of jumping forward, but so after Jack, she started dating her husband's brother.
Oh, keeping it in the family.
It's wild. And I forgot this until I started talking to this with one of my friends, that one of my friends grew up with her husband and her, I think they've broken up now, but then boyfriend, the brother. And I don't think so, because I kind of asked them about it, and they said that, like, I mean, she's always kind of, like, she's a free spirit type, like hippie type thing. You know, she can be a little dramatic sometimes, but I don't think it was like this with her husband. It was like this with her brother, but not with her husband. Some of the videos I've shared with you under like one of the tabs. It shows videos of like her and the brother fighting and stuff like that, and like just still abuse. And that's the brother of the husband. But yeah, so I don't think she was like that with the husband at all. I wonder if she maybe had dabbled in drugs more once they divorced.
Right.
Because I'm not sure the time period. Well, I guess really not that far since she was cheating on him. But like, you know, I don't know how long she went between the husband and Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was probably more drugs because they both were definitely using together. Mm-hmm. And I've always said, I've wondered what Jack and Tessa would have been like if they were sober together. Because a lot of people did say when they were good, they were good. But this side of it, like he was really hung up on before he went missing. So I do kind of wonder if they would have worked to get sober together, would they have worked out? Because I mean, they both were using really heavily at this time. Oh yeah, and that was my next bullet point. No, nice. But yeah, so mostly they were never sober together, ever. And she also wouldn't ever let him do anything without her. Like, he wouldn't even be able to work very much. She would scream and cry hysterically for hours, like until he would come home, or once he come home, she would start it. And it was just like a big deal, like to the point that either he would get fired for it or it was just too much. He couldn't work. So it became a point that she was like his financial stability too, which most people know in abuse situations, that's not good.
Right.
That's not good at all. Yeah. So he couldn't afford a place to like of his own. There was a job that he could sleep at, and so that kind of helped a little bit, but he did end up losing that job for the exact same reasons. And it would be a reason why he would always end up going back to Tessa, because like, what was he supposed to do? He had no money. He had no place to go. At this point, I don't think his car worked. I mean, he was reliant on Tessa and her family. And if he didn't go everywhere Tessa wanted him to, she would just lose her mind, you know? So he claimed that he was trying to find a job he could walk to. But I mean, even with the fits from Tessa, it was just hard, you know? It was just really hard. A lot of the people I talked to in this were, well, not a lot, but a handful of people I talked to in this were neighbors with Tessa and Jack when all this was going on. And afterwards, I mean, I still talk to a few of them, and the things these neighbors described to me of the abuse they witnessed, it just turned my stomach. It was crazy. They would say that Tessa would drag him out of the house, that she would leave him black and blue. I mean, one time one of them had saw like Tessa and him at a local store, and like his whole face was just black and blue on one side. It was just horrible. And neighbors frequently called the cops due to these fights. I mean, one of them said they had called easily 5 times around the time he went missing. They said they could hear him screaming for help in the house. I mean, that's what I'm saying, like stuff that would turn your stomach.
And they did nothing about it.
I mean,
the cops.
Yeah.
Like,
later on, you'll find out they arrested her once.
Okay.
They arrested her once. But this has been going on for months.
Right.
Yeah. And you gotta think that was one neighbor that called 5 times. Other neighbors were calling too. And he was telling neighbors she was isolating him and continuously hurting him. But like, I don't think he knew anyone else to reach out to. I think that's also why right there towards the end, I have literally over 20 people, I'd say about 24 people that have screenshots of him in that last month, just being like, please help me. I don't know what I'm going to do. Tessa's going to kill me. She's hurting me. She's doing this. She's not well. Like, I think he just went into a panic mode because of this at one point. She would threaten to kick him out or refuse to take him places if he made her mad. So like as a means of like punishment, control. So like he would try so hard to just tiptoe around her all the time. She tried to get him fired from jobs. There was one time in one of the messages I was reading, he said that she planted needles in his work bag. Like going to, yes, those types of lengths. Yeah. Said she lied about, hold on, sorry, I'm trying not to say, she has a child. I'm trying not to say his
Right.
name. Let me see how I can word this. So she has a child with her husband before. And from what he was saying in messages, she had her child lie about stealing, Jack stealing his phone. There was hints, there was more stuff that he lied about, but that gets a little personal, so I don't want to go there. But yeah, so Jack was scared to death. He was going to get in trouble because he didn't do this. And that's what the conversation was, is like, what do I do? Like, I didn't do this. How do I prove I didn't do it? Because there's no proof that I didn't do it because I didn't do it, you know, like, so he was like kind of freaking out about that. And he was scared he was going to need bailed out of jail is primarily what he was talking to that person about. They did get in an argument that day, which is what they think sparked her having her child lie that way. Because Jack did break the TV that day in that fight, and Tessa had started hitting him. So it is thought that at some point the abuse probably was mutual. I don't see a whole lot of Jack hurting her, but I mean, if he's breaking stuff around the house, I still kind of see that as abusive. Like, even if he wasn't putting hands on her, even if it was reactionary, it was still abuse, you know? And I get sometimes you just get to the point that you can't help it anymore, but it is still, it's still abuse, you know? And I mean, yeah. Then, like I said, I had talked to a lot of Jack's, you know, ex-girlfriends, people he was with, and this pattern just did not seem like it was with anybody else. And I mean, I would kind of drill these girls because I wanted to know, is this something that continuously happened? Was he like this with everyone? And a lot of people said no. Now, they did kind of say like the cheating thing, like, was probably something that you saw often because he didn't really feel like he was loved very much and that he didn't deserve it. So I think even if it wasn't cheating, he would bounce really fast between people. But he was not abusive. They didn't fight like this. He wasn't breaking people's stuff. And he wasn't surely messaging 20 plus people talking about the abuse he was dealing with from his other girlfriends, you know? And like I said, he stayed friends with a lot of his exes that came to me. But this seemed to be the same pattern mostly for Tessa. Like I said, there's, you know, I have sent you videos and stuff of things that were happening in the next relationship she just had. And it seems a little bit like escalation to me. I mean, we don't know what happened to Jack, so I won't say like she did anything to him per se, but the stuff we're hearing now about Jack, it seems like it was a little escalated with this new boyfriend. Like, there's one video, it looks like he's taking a chainsaw to the door, like crazy stuff, like beating down the door. In one of the videos, they're screaming outside her house, like she's screaming she wishes he dies and stuff. Like, I mean, it's gotten out of hand with the next person too. So I thought that was interesting that this pattern didn't seem to follow Jack, but this pattern did seem to follow Tessa. And whether that means Tessa is the one starting it, or maybe that's just the men Tessa chooses, I don't really know. But like I said, she wouldn't really ever talk to me. But I do think that's big to note that, you know, there is one person in the relationship that pattern followed. Let's see. Jack was trying to get his life together. He was trying to find anywhere else to go so he didn't have to stay with Tessa. Like I said, he was messaging tons of people. He had said that he had lost a lot of things and that they were stolen because he was bouncing houses and trusting the wrong people just to have a place to stay. So like he was always just leaving places fast and trusting wrong people that would steal from him and stuff. He was really, really scared of being dependent on her. all his stuff was at her house. Like his broken down Jeep was at the house. All his tools were at the house. And something we'll talk a little bit more about later is he had a trunk that had all of his belongings in it. And it was at Tessa's house. And actually, it was photographed at Tessa's house up until I started posting that I was looking into Jack. And I think 3 days, it was a few days before she finally messaged me. There's a video of a man carrying off the trunk.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little interesting that now all of his stuff is completely missing, because that would have been really great for Chloe to have. You know, I would have loved to be able to get that trunk, and we tried so hard to track it down, but I think it was thrown in a river or something or put on somebody's property. I mean, I don't think we'll ever find it now. But yeah, like that trunk was being watched from people around just because we were really hoping to get that for Chloe, because I knew all his stuff was probably in it. But yeah, no, it's gone now. He had 0 friends and family left. She controlled who he could and couldn't speak to. She would have him block quite a few people. I actually had another girl that he was friends with message me and tell me this exact same thing after the Creepalachia episode, that he would talk to her and then just randomly block her. And then as soon as he blocked her, Tessa would come and talk to these girls, trying to like smooth it over, you know what I mean? Like make it seem like, oh, he did this, I didn't do this, you know, or like, well, I had him block you because he told me that, like, you know, trying to make it where she wasn't to blame, it was him. But yeah, on January 2023, we're going to jump forward a little bit. Jack and Tessa got in a very heated argument. He had told a neighbor that she had gotten furious for little to no reason at all and picked at him for hours. His suitcase had been thrown into the yard with his stuff on it. Like it kind of seemed like she was kicking him out, and he packed a bag and she threw it outside. It was all getting rained on, and it was clear something was going on at that house. Jack had told a neighbor that he slept outside all night and he was allowed to come back in the morning. He came in to eat and sleep that day, but he had to bring all his stuff in. Now, he said that his trunk was at this church up the road, and he had to walk up and get it, but he had to do that like the next morning. He did mention, though, it would be painful because his left hand and ankle was hurt. He didn't say how it got hurt, but I mean, if all this commotion's happening at this house, I mean, you can only guess how his hand and ankle probably got 100%. Hurt. This same month, Tessa was arrested on January 29th. Tessa had woke up in a bad mood and started yelling and cussing him out and started scratching and biting Jack. And it's rumored that she tried to stab him. I don't know that for sure. That's just what he was saying to people. Jack had barricaded himself into the bathroom and called 911. And when the police showed up, Tessa was crying and really upset. But when they saw Jack, he had told them she was sleeping and just woke up in this bad mood, and everything started. He was bleeding from his face, and it was red and blotchy in areas. Tessa did claim that she had been choked and struck in the face, but there was like no signs of it at all. So the police kind of just brushed it off. Tessa was charged with domestic battery and taken to Southern Regional Jail. But if you look on the magistrate court, it was dismissed. She didn't go to jail or anything for it. But there was a letter sent to the prosecutor mapping out a pattern of Jack's abuse during this time. It was from one of his friends and said that he was terrified to speak her name. He was under constant threat of transportation to work or no longer would have a place to live. Jack's life had and revolved around her. And if the control slipped, that was when her abuse got really, really dangerous. But they still dismissed this case. So, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong because I don't have the dates pulled up, but I'm pretty sure it was dismissed once he went missing.
Of course.
Because, it takes a few months to get into the court system like that. So I'm pretty sure it was dismissed once he went missing, which I think is really interesting. But whatever. Jack at this point did get a DVP on Tessa after this arrest, and he was the one that was able to stay at Tessa's house, which caused her to have to couch surf, which I don't know. I go back and forth. I said this in my video. I don't think that's right. If it was Tessa's house, I think he should have had to leave.
Yeah.
I think that does nothing but fuel the flame.
Literally.
But that's what it was deemed, was that he could stay there and she had to be the one finding another place to stay. And I think that would piss anybody off, to be quite honest.
So weird.
That is really weird. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if maybe it's because that was Jack's really only permanent residence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know why he couldn't just go back to his grandma's, though.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But a trusted friend of Tessa's tried at this point to get her into an inpatient program. They had bailed her out of jail. I mean, they were trying to get her help. But the day of her intake, Tessa took off and you couldn't find her. So, and this expired in 30 days. So there was a point she could come back to her house. And he left, and this was about March at this point because she got arrested at the end of January. So he just went into the woods and like camped out for, a few days or a week, because we mentioned he really did like camping.
Yeah.
He loved it. She did ultimately get her house back, like I said, when the DVP expired. Now in March, Jack was living in Kentucky. He had finally gotten a hold of someone who said, listen, just come live with me. I'll get you a job at where I work. It was like a utility place. He was like, I'll get you on my shift and you can just start your life all over. Mm-hmm. And he liked this. He was like, okay, yeah, let's go do that. And, utility jobs probably pay a lot more than the jobs Jack could find. He was working a lot, minimum wage jobs. So he was kind of excited about this. He didn't have a car at the time. So he's like, I can save up and get a car and all that. He had mentioned multiple times he never wanted to go back to West Virginia because he didn't like the person he was there. But he started talking to Tessa again when he was there. And yeah, it all kind of went downhill at that point. He said he would never get back with her because she abused him and, the cops had been called so much. But, he wanted a new start. But, I mean, people fall into that abuse cycle, I think it takes like 7 times for someone trying to leave to actually leave, I think is the statistic. I don't have it off the top of my head right now. But, yeah, he was looking to buy a van. But from what I understand, the van was here in West Virginia. So he would have to travel back to get it.
Which, depending how far in Kentucky he was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was near the Indiana border. But either way, if he was coming back here, if it was around Boomer or Hanley, Montgomery, any of those areas, he could just stay with family. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think maybe he knew a friend down here that was selling it or something. But so when he told him he was coming down here to get the van, told the friend in Kentucky, he actually he took that man's truck, packed all his stuff, and left with no warning. The guy never saw him again. And so the guy was like, Jack, really? He was scared. He knew he was talking to Tessa, all of that. And he was kind of aggravated more than anything, right?
I can see that.
Yeah. He did get his truck back. I'm not sure how he ended up getting his truck back. I know he did, though. But, Jack did take it to come down here. So, like I said, he had reached out to multiple people before going missing. Most of the time, these messages were when he came back to West Virginia. He expressed concern for his safety over and over to people. Said he said he was trying to do better with his life. He thought there was no way out at this point, that he deserved the abuse he got. He said he was very hard on himself. He said he ruined himself. He was very down on himself, saying he went against his gut and lost everything. He mentioned to multiple people Tessa was going to kill him and that she ruined his life. There was even a point that he had reached out to Rachel, which, if you remember, is Jack's child's mother. At this point, he hadn't seen Chloe in a really long time because with all this abuse, he couldn't have Chloe around.
Right.
Like he just couldn't. His life was a disaster. Like, if we're just being honest, it was a disaster. And I think even at the mental like health stage he was at, he still cared so much about Chloe that he didn't want her to be a part of that. He didn't want Chloe seeing him like that. You know, it was just that type of thing.
Which, I mean, you can't blame him for that.
No, you can't. And I think, honestly, that was the most responsible thing a parent could do.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. And as much as it sucks, because I don't think he really got to see Chloe before he went missing. So it's like he didn't see Chloe for so much longer than just from when he was missing, right? I think she might have been 13 or maybe 12. I don't remember the exact age when he went missing. So, I mean, literally her whole teenage years, she hasn't known her dad or seen her dad. But I think that was really, in ways, I think that was really responsible for him to do. If he did anything responsible at that time,
right.
That was it. But he reached out to Rachel during this month of April and had shown grief for what he was going through. Said he f***ed up trusting Tessa. Said he was sorry for being a ghost, that he just didn't see a way out, and he's not sure how to stop this lifestyle. He talked about having no self-discipline anymore, and he just didn't even fight back or retaliate at this point. He just turned the other cheek. He talked a lot about not having a car, a job, or any more pride in himself. He said he wanted to better himself, but he just didn't see how he could. Said he was not crazy or dangerous like Tessa was trying to let people think he was, that he didn't steal, and that he didn't trespass. And then the last conversation with Jack she had, which was, I'm pretty sure, days before he went missing. This is still his conversations with Rachel. He said that he made a lot of idiotic choices to be with Tessa. He said the last 6 days had been hell because he just hadn't learned, and said he might not get away. He was already afraid, and people like and believe Tessa. Because like I said, Tessa's very likable.
Right.
And so people believed what she was saying about him. Because, I mean, even though he was a nice guy, he was fun, people still knew he's been using since high school. And, you know, he's still very hard on himself. And I think when men don't have good self-esteem, like, people almost don't trust them. I don't know how to explain that. But, you know, I think people are a lot harder on men who don't have confidence and, like, women that don't have confidence. And so, you know, like, it was easy, I think, for her to convince people that he was a bad guy at this point. He refused to say anything about Tessa directly, which I thought was interesting in these messages. Like, he never said her name, but you could tell that's who he was talking about. And he just kept saying he wasn't a dangerous person, he wasn't crazy, and he's not nervous all the time for no reason, which I thought was really interesting because people don't always say that. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the stuff he's saying is normal in abuse relationships, but not the I'm not nervous for no reason.
Right.
That stood out to me. And then he said he walked right into things he didn't deserve, and said that when someone raises their voice at him now, he just walks away or like runs away because it freaks him out. He told her to tell Chloe he is sorry he stayed away, and just said, you know, he stayed away because since him and Tessa got together, it had just been very unhealthy, you know, and he just didn't want he didn't want Chloe to be a part of that. Since he had got with Tessa, he just really started using drugs. He shouldn't have been doing it, and that he was trusting Beth, his mom, and Tessa just too much, which I also thought was interesting because, like I said, I never got to talk to either of them. So I was like, were they close?
Yeah.
I mean, if they both were using in a very small town, it's very possible.
You would have to know each other.
Yeah, that you would know each other. But how well did they know each other? Why is he saying he should have never started doing drugs and he should have never trusted Beth and Tessa? Like, that's interesting to me, like why he went into that. And he said that he had said not to cross Tessa, not to fuck with her, was his words, and to always side with Tessa if she came to Rachel with anything because she was dangerous. And I was like, okay. So that was one of the last conversations I saw him ever have, actually. There was a girl that he dated, I think, in high school, or maybe a little after high school. It seemed a while ago that he stayed friends with. And she has looked into this case a lot. She's the one that actually emailed the prosecutor about the abuse he was going through. And she had sent me something really interesting. In November, this says November, it might be October 2022. So 2 months before Tessa was arrested for domestic violence, he sends this girl a video discussing the abuse that had just happened. And I sent you the video, but the video is him describing the exact same thing she was arrested for in January, but this was in October. Yeah, think about that. So the exact same situation happened in October that she got arrested for in January.
Right now, I'm sitting in the bathroom. Tessa's downstairs acting like she's hurt, and I haven't touched her. And I don't know. She won't stop like hysterically crying. And the worst thing that's happened to her today is I did not give her enough attention. I came home and began to do my laundry and showered, and then she started and wouldn't stop. I've got nowhere to go. I've got no ride anywhere. I don't know how I'm going to get to work in the morning. I got to get up at like 5:30 or 6. I don't know why she's doing this.
The exact same thing that happened. She had woke up, she was upset, and he had to lock himself in the bathroom because she was scratching, hitting him, and all of that. And to think like that video exists. I mean, it's him talking to the camera. There's no way it's not him. And to know that happened before she was arrested just really shows this abuse happened for a very long time. And I just think that's so sad and almost scary that how is it the exact same situation, you know?
100%.
Yeah. And even Tessa had said something was off in the days leading up to his disappearance. She said she couldn't find him and didn't hear from him for 3 days. This is when we think he kind of went camping in the woods for a little bit and came back. She said Jack's friend in Indiana that he was staying with had gotten a hold of Tessa, that's the guy he took the truck, and told him that Jack had lost his job with the utility company and that he was done putting his name out there, done helping him. And Jack kind of panicked when he knew this guy got a hold of Tessa and was like, you didn't tell him what town we're in, did you? And was just acting really paranoid.
Which is weird.
Weird, right? Really weird. So obviously, I put that in there because the guy did not think Tessa had done something to him. Like, that guy really did think, oh my God, he went back to West Virginia. He got back on drugs and he got back with that, sorry, Tessa, but that crazy girlfriend. Yeah. And, you know, now he's just back. Like, it never occurred to this guy that something bad would happen to him when he came home. Like, he was upset, you know? Right. So on April 19th, this is the day before he went missing, he was picked up at the Montgomery Go-Mart standing outside around 12 a.m. He had talked to multiple people this day. Like I said, the guy that he lived with, he had he had went a whole month without saying a word to that guy, but he did apologize for leaving Kentucky the way he did. He said that he knew he had messed everything up and that he told him he had went back to Bess, his mom, like his biological mom's, and that he was going to help her move to another place but decided to stay. So he wasn't even being honest that he went back with Tessa to this guy. Now, he did have a friend he talked to that he had asked a month prior for a place to stay, but the guy was like, yeah, I don't live on my own. I can't just let you come to my house. Jack had gotten a hold of him the day before he went missing just to say thank you, because the guy had brought him, you know, socks, like cold medicine and food when he knew he didn't have a place to stay and stuff. So he was just texting him saying, you know, hey, thank you for all that. Like, I have a little bit extra money. Can I cash app you for it? I know it's been a month, but, you know, I want to repay you. And the guy said, no, like, I'm just happy that you can repay me if you want.
Right.
And I'm glad you're doing well. And he said, oh, no, I'm doing awful. That was like immediate. No, I'm doing awful. He said he went right back to Tessa, that he had messed everything up again. And he said that he was lazy and weak and that he was paying for it. Said his stupidity knows no bounds. Said he had lied to make himself look cool to Tessa. And this part's, like I said, this is his own words, but he had told Tessa he had been hooking and like other things that go along with that, like drugs and stuff like that, and said that he was never going to cross her or anyone around her for that matter ever again. And it was clear something bad must have happened when he told her this. Said he was not the bad guy, not a thief, and not out of his mind, which makes me think that's pretty much what she was telling him, because he was like very big in making people not believe he was crazy. He said that if anything happened to him, read into it. He said he holds no grudges or bears no ill will and just wants to do what's right. He said he's 100% not crazy, and he's too tired to fight anyone over anything he can't change anymore. He said this the day before he went missing.
So weird.
Yeah.
Which I feel like everyone says, if I go missing, read into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why
100%.
I preach. Like,
I will never leave my kids. Like, just so you know.
Like, this is why I preach,
into it.
like, if I go missing folders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Christy was telling me about those, and I'm like, girl, you need to show me what you put in there so I know what to do. But yeah. And then he tells him to block him after this conversation and not to admit to anybody that he talked to him. It was really weird.
Yeah.
And like I said, he was acting strange the day before he went missing. He was paranoid, very out of character for him, and just seemed, honestly, like he was on meth. Like he was just, I mean, you know, people that's on meth. We're from West Virginia. We know everyone. We know someone on meth.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was something like that. Like, people really thought he was, like, on a binge, unfortunately. Jack had said that Tessa had gotten really deep in his head. And at this time, Jack did have a backpack, wallet, and pistol with him. So, you know, I just put that out there because we'll need to know that later. But yeah. So now we're going to go to the day he went missing. He was visiting his mom and grandma in Hanley. It was rumored that he had gotten into a fight with his mom. It's about some personal things, so I won't bring it up, but he had gotten into a fight with his mom. Jack was allegedly messaging Tessa to come pick him up from this house. Jack didn't have a phone at the time that you could call or text, so he was just, I don't know if it was like a computer or somebody else's phone that he was trying to talk through, but, you know, he was pretty much just saying, come get me. Right. This is where I'm at. I think he had dropped his phone in the river or something. He was seeing if he could get his stuff out of Tessa's, I think, car is where he thought it was, because I think he thought his backpack with all his stuff was there, because that's what he kept saying was he wanted to get his stuff from her. He tried to tell her he needed to go to the hospital and called her from a random person's phone and thought someone was trying to like mess with him on the walk from Hanley, in which he accidentally pepper sprayed himself, which is why he thought he needed to go to, I shouldn't laugh about that. He accidentally pepper sprayed himself. So that's why he was trying to go to the hospital. And And she had said it was just very clear that his mind was not right at this time.
Uh-huh.
When she got there, he had gotten into the car and he started talking about Beth, saying something about being scared she was trying to frame him or get him in trouble somehow. I don't know if that comes from the fight that might have happened earlier. But yeah, he then thought Tessa was a part of it. So again, paranoid. People thinking he was on drugs at this time. Like, he's thinking now Tessa is a part of this with my mom. And he took off on foot running up the street. She parked her car and kind of ran after him because he was like filthy and scared. And she was scared that people would think he was dangerous and like shoot him or something. I mean, we live in West Virginia. Yeah, that stuff happens.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like people get really freaked out when people run up on them like that. But he was like trying to like, she described it as slinking around. What I think she means is like going in the bushes, like, you know, kind of like crouched down, like hiding.
Which, I mean, if someone saw that, they would be like peeping Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's bushes and stuff, I'm assuming it's around private properties. I mean, I guess it could be around businesses, but it kind of seemed like it was a residential place that this happened. And she did realize she was making things worse by chasing after him. So she just got back in the car, parked the car in the middle of like where he was running in circles. And she said she kind of went to sleep in the car and just stayed there in case he decided to get in. Granted, this is all from like messages I read that Tessa had told Rachel. I don't know if all that's true, but that's what Tessa said her last encounters with Jack were. Around 6:30, he left on foot from his grandma's house in Hanley to the Cavalier Heights apartments to visit a friend in Montgomery. Nobody is sure whether he got there or not. If you talk to anybody in this case, it is such a split, whether he made it to this apartment or he didn't. The guy who had the apartment said he never made it. A lot of people said he made it and left with 2 other guys later. So I don't know.
Is there no like security footage? Because I feel like they would have to have that like in hallways and stuff, like depending on how it is.
Yeah.
Or like going and coming from.
I did talk to the manager of the Cavalier Heights apartments, but she never mentioned there was footage of him getting there or not. So I'm not sure if it was like one of those things like, you know, security camera footage like erases in a certain amount of time. I know this is a little bit jumping ahead, but it was a month that they waited to report him missing.
Of course,
it could have easily been just written over at that point, you know? So I don't know if there was ever security footage or not. But it was rumored that Jack was seen that night. He said out of his own mouth that Tessa was going to kill him, allegedly, and that he was not playing around about that. I will say this, though. Someone got a hold of me and told me that they had brought Tessa to South Charleston to go to a dispensary and that she should have a receipt from the dispensary with the time and date of when he went missing. Ironically enough, that guy is cousins with the guy who owns the apartment.
Small world.
I like not the guy that owns the apartment, but the other one, like, I don't know why he would have any part of this. He seemed like a cool guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone's related to everyone in small towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my thing with the receipt, who actually keeps their receipts?
That's what I said. I was like, why would she have this receipt?
I'll wad them up and throw them away.
Especially if it's going to be a month after he went missing. Why would you keep
Exactly.
that? Yeah, and I can never get a hold of her to ask for the receipt.
Right.
So it's kind of like, is there one? Is there not one? Maybe she did get taken there at that time, but then that kind of leads the question, did she have someone else do something? You know, like, there's a lot of different things. But yeah, supposedly she went to a dispensary in South Charleston and there should be a transaction that says she was there. The guy says that then he dropped her off at like the Rock Lake area of South Charleston, and that but yeah, like I said, the guy was cousins with the guy that Jack was supposed to go see. So I know a few people do think that's a little weird. I can't discredit that, but I personally don't think that person that brought Tessa there had anything to do with it. But Her and Beth started posting on Facebook about him being missing the day after, but the missing report was filed. So over a month. Well, a little less than a month, actually. I misspoke. But random family thought he was in Indiana or Kentucky still. I think they lived kind of on the border. I think that's why people aren't sure if it's Kentucky or Indiana. Which then caused Tessa to post that he was found because family thought he was up there. So they're saying, well, he's in Kentucky to Tessa and Beth. And I think they just assumed, instead of asking, like, how long has he been up there? Yeah. How do you know that? They just posted that he was, Tessa posted that he was found, which caused a little bit of chaos because, people then just wrote it off.
Which me, I would be like, can you send me a picture of him?
Yeah.
Like proof.
Yeah. The neighbors saw Tessa and a few other men scrubbing her front porch at 2 a.m. the night that Jack walked to Cavalier Apartments.
Because that's normal.
Yeah, at 2 a.m. And they had an area rug that was huge outside on the fence, like hanging there for 2 days, cleaning it. Yeah. They painted the porch 2 different colors in a very short time period. The first one was just a few months after he went missing, and then the second time was in 2024, like summertime. And it seemed to be like darker shades. Like it was a light, like the one they painted, a few months after he went missing was a little darker than what the porch was to begin with. Mm-hmm. The one in 2024 was even darker than that.
So easy to hide a stain if there is one.
Yeah. Yeah. So for a while, his trunk sat on the porch until about the beginning of December, a few days before Tessa got a hold of me. I said that earlier. He took that trunk everywhere he went because it had all his stuff in it. So if he were to run away,
he would take
why
the trunk.
would he leave this trunk?
Exactly.
Beth had said that Jack had it in Indiana. So again, it showed that he even moved with it. Like it wasn't like, oh, he was just leaving it there and he's going to come back for it. Like he would move with this thing. So she wasn't even sure, because it was in Indiana, Beth wasn't even sure how it ended up back at Tessa's.
Because he wasn't in Indiana.
Yes. And I think, if it was in Indiana, he probably just brought it back in the guy's truck.
True, yeah.
His phone and Facebook messages stopped receiving calls and messages the next day after he went missing, April 21st, 2023. Now, this is what I found online, but like I said, I can never talk to Beth or Tessa, so I don't know if these dates are exactly correct. But it seemed that Beth tried to report Jack missing on April 29th, so just, 9 days after he went missing. But I think this was a situation that she called the police, and they're just like, well, he goes camping often. He goes in the woods, wait a few days. Yeah. Unfortunately he did do drugs, and we know people can disappear for a few months on that stuff. And so they kind of just brushed it off from what I understand. Tessa never really seemed fazed at all about this, and that could go one or two ways. Maybe Tessa thought the police were right. Maybe he's just off doing his thing and he'll come back. Maybe she knew something happened. We don't know. But she ended up filing a missing person report on Jack on May 8th. So I guess 3 weeks afterwards, I'll say. She said an officer just had come out of the woods behind the house where they had found his red blanket, but couldn't find his tent. So they did think there's no way he's camping in those woods. How would he survive these elements? April in West Virginia can still be harsh.
Oh, yeah.
She had said Tessa had stolen his backpack on the afternoon of the 20th. Beth told the police this. And they did find his backpack with Tessa and his wallet and his gun. But he didn't have a phone at the time. So there was no finding that. Said Tessa came to the house and argued with him around noon that day, grabbed it and ran out the door and jumped into a big black truck before Jack could get her. Now, Beth's saying this kind of confuses me, because then you just don't know who's telling the truth, because that doesn't match anything Tessa said happened that day.
Right.
First of all, Tessa said he was picked up in town after leaving fighting with Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Beth is saying Tessa and Jack were arguing, and she came to the house, stole his stuff, and left. So, like, I think it's really hard to tell what actually happened to Jack the day he went missing, because there's two stories that don't even match up. There's no details that match up. And it's the two people filing missing person reports.
And the two people you can't talk to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his grandma at the time, she has now passed away. She passed away while this was going on. She was in a nursing home. I had heard she was having a few memory issues. I was not about to reach out to her. And now that we know a few months left for her to live, and be like, what happened at, with Jack the day at your house, so I just wasn't doing it. I felt like that was very distasteful.
Yeah.
So it's like, we have no idea what happened to Jack, because the only other person that would have probably saw him was Anne, and Anne's now passed away. Others found out mostly on Facebook, including his daughter, that he was missing. Tessa, I don't know why she wouldn't tell Rachel that he was missing. I don't know. But why would Chloe's grandmother, why would Beth not tell Rachel and Chloe that her dad is missing? Like, that really bothers me. It's like, why did this poor girl have to find out on Facebook?
Yeah.
And I think that's normal. I feel like we hear that a lot in cases, that people don't know until they see it posted on Facebook. But that's his kid. Like, why did nobody ask Chloe if she'd heard from her dad?
Yeah.
It'd been 3 weeks. Why? I mean, he was obviously texting Rachel beforehand. And I mean, obviously Rachel didn't know to tell anybody, because she didn't know he was missing either. But why did nobody ask Rachel or Chloe where he was if they'd heard from him? I don't know. But nothing came out of the multiple searches. Tessa did claim she aided in the searches. She supposedly was there. Searches around this area, were around like the last place where he was known to be. I don't know if he had like almost like a phone that only had Wi-Fi, because they do say it was kind of around where that pinged too. Maybe it was one that didn't have service, if that makes sense. Like people just have an iPhone. It was rumored no one would mess with Tessa because her dad was tied to dangerous people. I don't know how much I believe that, but that was something people kept saying. I just think Tessa could be intimidating to people. I don't even necessarily think it's her family per se.
More than her.
I think it's just her, because from what I gather, like, she's very cool and collected, but those people, like, they still have like that about them that you're like, okay, I'm not messing with them.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, maybe she's like one of those people that go 0 to 100. I feel like more people were worried about her than they were worried about their family, but I did want to throw that in there. She did lawyer up immediately when they filed the missing person report, which I know people think is weird. I go back and forth about it, because I think it's not great to not have a lawyer, whether you're innocent or guilty. In my opinion, I think it's the most responsible thing to do to hire a lawyer if you're talking to police, because you never know their motives. You don't know what they're looking for. Like, you could unknowingly say something that means nothing, but they think it means something, and now you are a suspect in an investigation. So you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing she lawyered up. I know a lot of people think it's weird, but I don't necessarily think.
To me, you should always have one
Yeah.
in your phone.
Yeah.
Now, polygraphs, I can fully understand not doing those.
Yeah.
But I always say lawyer up, because, I mean,
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you could still, like, I think people think if you lawyer up, you cannot talk to the police at all. No, you can bring them in there and talk to the police with them. It's just someone to kind of manage what's going on that have expertise in it.
Yeah, because, I mean, we know how some cops are.
Yeah, don't even get me started. I bet there are some that would love to get me.
Same.
I would love it. So the rumor on social media was that he was following people after he went missing. I just want to bring this up because I just don't think it was him. And I think, because this is a part that's talked about a lot, I don't know. I just don't believe his accounts were active. People try to say people made certain accounts. Like one was named Gypsy Jack, and there was like an Instagram, and I just don't believe those were him. I just don't. And I think people were just very sensitive to Jack. Like maybe he tried to make a Facebook right before he went missing, but you're just seeing it after he went missing because they're talking about it, or like vice versa with the Snapchat, Instagram. I don't necessarily think by any means any of these were made after. I think if anything, he was trying to make them so Tessa didn't know he was talking to other people on them. But I never saw any of those messages from any of the other accounts. So I'm going to go over a little bit of what Tessa's involvement in the case was. She had said that Jack was running around the woods for 3 days before he went missing. We talked about that a little bit. And said the longest he would ever go, like by himself, that she wouldn't hear from him, was like a week or so, which I think is why the police said, you know, they needed to wait a little bit longer to file a police report or a missing person report. Said he looked different from different angles, and like his different moods, he looked different. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I've given you access to the pictures of Jack. I have. You know, I don't think he necessarily looks so different you wouldn't recognize him out. I think there's just some with long hair, some with short hair, some with facial hair, some with not. And I mean, people's expressions, yeah, it kind of makes them look different, but it doesn't make them not unrecognizable, you know?
I think the only time he looks different is when he had his glasses on, but you could still tell it's him because he was clean shaven. I mean, you can still tell it's him from his eyebrows and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think like he has those like that smirk he does in a lot of the pictures. Like, how is that not? I don't know. But she did mention that, and I thought that was interesting because I'm like, what a way if she had something to do with it. What a way to throw people off. Be like, yeah, you're not going to be able to recognize him if you see him out. He looks so different at all these different instances. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it was like, when you say that, it kind of discourages it, you know? She said the last thing he said to her was that he hated the guy that he was going to the apartment of. Which is interesting, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah. She said Jack allegedly said that he was half speaking with him in the last few times they hung out, and he said that the guy wasn't what he seemed. So again, it's like if she even just knew something, you know, what happened to him, and she's trying to throw people off. You're now telling people the last person he supposedly was with that we know of, he didn't like. That's just like shifting blame to me. You know what I mean? Tessa did seem barely to be dealing with law enforcement. Like I said, she did go on some of the searches from what I understand. She also was referring to him as dead to the police. So that was interesting. And it was because they'd searched Hanley, Montgomery, and May and didn't find anything. As from what I understand, she just assumed he was dead. She said that Trooper Brandon Hunt, who is over this case, said if someone's current actions are completely contrast to their norms, we just must make assumptions. So she was saying that police were referring to him as dead. And that's just, I mean, we've looked into how many missing person cases. That is not how police handle that. They always, I feel like, deem that you're alive until there's reason not to. And if this is like during the searches and like right, you know, a few days after he went missing, why would they claim he must be dead to her. But they also were saying, well, he's probably just out somewhere, like, give it time, like, he'll come back, like, he was on drugs. This is a common, pattern. So it just didn't really make sense. Now, there was one person she had gotten in contact with named Trooper Schoolcraft. I can't remember the first name right now. And she was very familiar with the Upper Canal Valley. She used to live in Montgomery, and she was at a place that we call the compound, and it was flooded, and she had searched for Jack there. There was a few tips that Jack might be there. It's like kind of like a drug area. Nope, he wasn't there. She searched, she talked to people. There was no sign of him there. Schoolcraft said that she was going at the first light of the morning to look around the place that he could be, and she knew some of the people there were in some deep crap for Montgomery, like drugs and stuff. So she was going to kind of put them out there to talk to, see if anything came back, if they knew any rumors. Nothing. There was nothing. She had said, though, or Tessa had said to people that the guy that Jack was going to go see was involved in this, that we needed to look into the guy that was at the Cavalier Apartments more. I feel I never got to talk to law enforcement in this, so I'm not really sure. I feel like they did clear that guy, though. Like, if he was the last person that Jack was known to be going to see, I feel like he was cleared. But who knows? Maybe not. They did say that Tessa hired a lawyer before speaking to police, so that made it very hard for them to be able to interview her. So they claim they cleared her, or Tessa claims they cleared her as a suspect, but how do you do that if you weren't able to talk to her?
100%.
Yeah. She claims that she gave them all the information that she knows, but police have said that they can never get Tessa to call them back. It was kind of like when she talked to me. It was a pattern like that. Like, they would kind of talk to her, but then when they would try to, like, sit down and talk about Jack, nothing. And that she would, like, call them back at weird times, like 3 a.m. in the morning. So she could say she called him back, but she couldn't. But she never talked to them, So it was kind of like that thing. Neighbors said that the police never came by and spoke to the neighbors about Jack, even though they were the ones that called multiple times on domestic violence and what was happening to him in that house. Never.
And I mean, some of them could have had cameras, ring cameras, something. I mean,
exactly. And they never looked at any of that.
God forbid.
I know. And I asked some of the neighbors, but by the time I got into it, he had been missing like a year and a half. So no, they didn't have the Ring alarm camera footage from 2 years ago.
Right.
And that really sucks, and maybe there's a way they could subpoena it. Right.
Maybe,
but still, if it doesn't save, I don't know how long Ring alarm camera saves for. So it's like, who knows? Like, that's probably all gone. But if these people have multiple times called you for domestic violence and now the person's missing, why would you not talk to these neighbors?
Exactly.
Yeah. They said that they saw them one time in the neighborhood to talk to Tessa, but they didn't think they were able to get a hold of her. And one neighbor went into the lead investigating officer's office and told him everything they knew, but they never even followed up with her. Now, the district manager of Cavalier Heights Apartments said that they had an incident with him a few days prior of him going missing. Said there were some eerie remarks made by his girlfriend, which would be Tessa, and her aunt around the time he went missing also. She reported this to Montgomery police, and they gave them the information. But they told her to pass the information along to Hanley police. So she called and left a voicemail with them in May, but never got a call back. May 2023, like after he went missing, but never received a call back. So I'll go over the rumors that Jack was found. Supposedly, Tessa said his sister Alyssa hinted towards him being Jack being located. I think this is part of the family that thought he was in Kentucky or Indiana. She said that she had spoken to numerous officials, county and state, and supposedly right next to the compound, they also looked at where he was hanging out at, but they found nothing. So she just kind of assumed, oh yeah, he was, in Kentucky and Indiana. Now the compound, the building burned down right before this. It was like a car shop at the mouth of a holler. And that's a big rumor of where he could be. I won't say who, but someone did go into it and sent me a video of them walking around. I don't know how you'd find anything in
Right.
there. Anything. I don't know. Like it still just looks like a burnt down place. So that's just one of the rumors, is that he could be in there. Sergeant Robinson said that they ran cadaver dogs all around that area of the compound back in May 2023, but nothing was ever found. I don't know which dog service that was. And then Officer Workman had also announced that there was no remains found in there, so they must have done a pretty extensive search. There's also a rumor that his body had been found, but Tessa had taken out a big insurance policy on him and would receive money. And I don't mean to laugh halfway through that. I know some people really do believe that, but I don't. I don't believe that. I think if for some reason she had gotten a big insurance policy from him, we would have seen that she had money, first of all. And second of all, I just don't think that's as common in, how do I say this in a nice way? I don't want to say level of poverty, but they did kind of live in poverty. I don't think that's as big of a thing as if like we're going to talk about the Leroy Gorman case where, he was a businessman. I could see that more in his case than, not to be mean, but two drug addicts dealing with an abusive situation.
I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was money, you would see it go into drugs,
you would see it
not
doing
like.
Something. Yeah. And you just didn't. I'll briefly talk about Tessa was arrested 2 days after he was missing. She was running around with another guy right before Jack was even missing. And she was arrested with that person. I won't say his name, but she had borrowed the guy who took her to South Charleston's truck, and she said that she was going to pick up her child. So the guy was like, yeah, of course, if it's for your kid, go, take my truck, go get it. But she did not go pick up her kid. She got pulled over in his truck while she was going to pick up drugs. She was on a drug run.
Was it the black truck that his mom allegedly saw?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Which would make sense, because if Beth's story is correct, that lines up better with her going to South Charleston.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to have this whole fight with Jack and then head to South Charleston from Montgomery, have time to get, your stuff from the dispensary, hang out a little bit, because she was dropped off in the Rock Lake area of South Charleston and then brought back. Like, that's a long day. You know what I mean? That's a long day if you're having a whole fight with your boyfriend beforehand. So if Beth's correct, like she just showed up to the house, stole his backpack and left, that makes a lot more sense to me. But I don't think either of them are reliable sources. No, so I kind of am like, what really happened? But what's interesting is if Beth's story is true, when Tessa was pulled over in South Charleston with her, new guy, Jack's stuff was in that truck. His bag, his gun, and I put found right there. His bag, his gun, and his wallet were in that truck. Yeah. Now, I don't think Tessa was fully arrested. I think it was the guy she was with that took most of the charges. I can't remember if hers were just dismissed or they just didn't book her. I can't remember. But he was arrested for unlawful manufacture, delivery, transport into state, and possession of fentanyl. So they clearly had something in that truck. I kind of already went over Jack's trunk, but I'll just reiterate that it was on Tessa's porch up until I really started digging into this, which I just think is very interesting. It was taken off the day that she had reached out to me. There was a Josh that was seen on a bike carrying it right after Tessa and I had planned for a phone call that didn't follow through. But yeah, but it was on her porch.
Yeah.
It was on her porch. For days, or I guess months, but even in this video they're zooming in, it's still there, and that's a whole other season,
Yeah.
This is me look, as long as I'm looking into it. So it's I was continuously getting pictures sent of this trunk because I was trying to track this trunk for Chloe. I was helping Rachel figure out a way. I had pretty much just told Rachel, you need to text Tessa and see if you can have it. And she was going to. And I think Rachel was hesitant because you just, in this situation, she just didn't know how Tessa would handle it. And yeah, now we'll never know where the trunk went, unfortunately. Like I said, I think they probably put it in the river or something like that. But
have they ever dragged the river for it?
Oh, no, because that's not even really reported to the police. Because how are you supposed to... I don't know how to go about that. You know what I mean? And I don't know how anybody else would really go about that. I feel like if they did their job, they should know that was Jack's stuff.
You would think.
But we just don't know. Yeah. And so I don't know if I go to the police and say, hey, this was Jack's stuff. This went missing months ago at this point, because that would have been in December. Mm-hmm. Can you check the river? I don't know if it was put in there, but we just saw him carrying it, on a bike. Which, how did somebody do that? You saw how long
you would have to be strong.
You'd have to be on meth is what you'd have to
be. And it would offset your bike so much too.
Yes. And that dude was carrying it he'd done it 20 times. Yeah, he was not swerving or anything. Mm-hmm. That's some determination to get that thing. Yeah. I've heard it's in the river, and then I've heard it was brought to a property way out somewhere that you don't drive up on. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, let's get into theories. Okay. Some of these are a little crazy. I'm not going to get into all these theories. I will say there's certain search areas, people say that he could be in the London locks. There is a hospice house spot called Swaller Holler. It's an old sludge pond. I know, I can't with the name.
The name is something else.
And I've been told you don't go there without a gun, and there's eyes that keep a track of who goes to that place. I think that's really weird.
I remember looking up on Google Maps. Mm-hmm. Where can people be watching?
I have no idea, because it's literally in the woods. Yeah. I could barely find it in Google Maps. I actually would have to talk to people from that area.
I might have not been in this right area, because I was in the hospice house area.
That's where and that's where me and JD looked on there.
Yeah.
And I went back to my old conversations with people, and yes, I guess you could say it's but I think it's way farther out.
Okay.
And then there's also a pond area near the Cavalier Heights apartments, way up in there, but that's not near the hospital. I'm so confused on where this is.
Yeah, me directly challenged over here.
Yeah, so it is what it is. But I bring that up because we're going to watch a TikTok later that brings up that sludge pond. So that's,
Oh, I remember that TikTok.
They say that he could be running from dangerous people because he messed up a drug job or something like that. And that could be why he was reaching out to so many people, trying to come get him from his grandma's house, give him a place to stay. And it might be why he wasn't telling people, hey, these people are after me. Can you put yourself in danger and let me stay there? And there were rumors that the jobs could have been human trafficking, and that's why he was in the Indiana area too, why he abruptly left. There was one rumor I kept hearing about, this is a nickname obviously, but a guy named E from Dunbar. Again, it was related to drugs, and that this guy could have done something to Jack. But if he did, this person was also tied to Tessa. Like, they knew each other. It's possible they were buying drugs off him. And if that's the case, supposedly he hid the body behind what used to be West Virginia Tech. I didn't see much about that. This story blew up a tiny bit on TikTok by, I won't say the guy's name because I don't know if he wants me to. But I mean, he publicly put out a TikTok. So if you find it, you find it.
And I mean, you sent it to me at one point in time. And I know me and Courtney watched it and we were like, mind blown.
What? Yeah, it's wild, right? And so yeah, he put out this TikTok. He says he doesn't know Jack. And he's not familiar with the case, but he might have a theory that kind of went around with it.
The 20th of 2023, a young man from Handley, West Virginia, went missing. His name was Jack Denny. He has not been found. What's fascinating about this is this man, I don't know him, never met him, never heard of him. This is just a circulating news article and a concerned neighbor. I lived in Montgomery, West Virginia at the time, which is literally the next town. I don't expect many people not from West Virginia to know what this is like, but these are tiny, tiny little company towns. Montgomery was a university town until the university moved to another city and kind of just left that town behind. Handley, literally just like, the border of one town enters another. It's just like a conglomeration of tiny towns. Handley is also another one of these tiny little towns. It's right there. It's the next thing you enter as you leave Montgomery. You have the Kanawha River, and it's not far from where the New River happens, but or where the New and the Gully come together to form the Kanawha. But anyways, there's Montgomery, Smithers, Handley, Cannleton Hollow. There's a few tiny little towns right there in that area. And it's just a thing where, like, let's say you've been, you've had the local law enforcement of Montgomery called on you because you violated bond and you've continued to harass someone you're not supposed to be near, and they just kind of are understaffed, so they don't do anything more than just follow you across the city line until you don't come back. It's like that, right? Bumfuck ya. So it's kind of how it happens there. Anyway, so this, if anybody's been watching, there's a video taken from my security cameras on my front porch in Montgomery around that time. Very, very close to that time. Anyways, I know someone who really enjoyed party and play, right? Allegedly, this young man had been dealing with addiction. And it's a thing where, a man may be interested in women, otherwise may have children, may have been married at some point. I don't know this man's story, but he was straight, right? Whatever. But a user. So the thing that happens with a lot of people who use is they end up, the gender lines become less important when it comes to their need for pleasure, because there's an idea that there may be some Appalachian booger sugar to get out of the deal. This young man did hitchhike. He was known to be a hitchhiker, and I know somebody who was a big fan of picking up hitchhikers and offering them rides, and then getting some enjoyment with them. Anyways, this young man has been missing for a long time. There's a strange little pond in the middle of, not really the woods, it's kind of a cleared out area where the city of Charleston dumps a lot of fallen trees, cleared trees, whenever they're like street crews or groundkeeping crews, get a lot of, fallen trees, tree limbs, dirt piles, gravel, things like that. This is just a random place behind the hospice house where they dump these things, but there's this strange pond there. It's not, and the word pond is something that I'm using very liberally because it's kind of almost like a bulldozer has dug a giant hole and next to it is a giant mound of the dirt that came from that hole. It's often been said by somebody that I used to be very close with but now no longer can stand that that's a very dangerous hole. Who knows what's in there? You could put a body in there and no one would ever know. Don't fall in. It's quicksand. It's very deep. Lots of strange things, right? I don't know, y'all. I've just been my mind has been racing today. A lot of people have been reaching out to me over the last few days, all of a sudden wanting to talk about these things. Now, all of a sudden, I guess things must be circling in quite closely back home because people are just like...
I bring up this TikTok, though, because even though I don't necessarily believe that it was just a random person that picked Jack up while hitchhiking, even though that could be something that happened, I bring it up because he also brings up this pond, this sludge pond. And if that's the case, I mean, he would know where to find it, and like I said, I don't want to go too much into this guy's personal history, but the guy's partner was a crime reporter. He would know, how to explain where this place is. He would hear rumors of this stuff. Is this possible that maybe this was something that rumors were circulating about in, this area? And that was the only way this guy knew how to get this out. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe he was just picked up by a random guy who hurt hitchhikers, but I do think he has a point in where he could be at,
So we're not thinking he was picked up by the Mad Butcher.
No, not the Mad Butcher. Oh my gosh, it is Fayette County, though.
I hope you felt my eye roll on that.
Yes. Yeah. Fayette County. That guy's still out here doing that stuff. But yeah, so they do think, there are rumors around that if Tessa wasn't the one hands-on that did something to Jack, that it could have been the guy she was hanging out with, the guy that she got arrested with just 2 days later. He was known to be a little nuts. That's why I don't like to mention his name. And a lot of the people that came to me saying they wanted to be anonymous, it was because they were scared of this guy. They think he's crazy. There's no bounds on what this guy will do. So I thought that was interesting because, if she wanted an alibi and she went to South Charleston, this is her new guy she's kind of seeing. He could have felt really protective of Tessa if we know that Tessa was going around saying Jack was hurting her too. I mean, he talked about that a lot. So could this be a situation that she was off doing something and her new boo thing was like, I'm going to take care of this guy. Even if it was a spur of the moment, like he just was driving and sees Jack walking. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't necessarily need to be a planned out thing.
Oh yeah.
So I do think that's interesting. Now, he was confronted about maybe hurting Jack and he denies everything. So I mean, innocent until proven guilty, but it is possible. But personally, I think there's about 3 things that could have happened. I do think it's possible he overdosed. We know he was using pretty heavily, and we know that his actions near the time of his disappearance really matched with meth. A lot of people thought he was on meth. And so it's sad, but it is something we have to consider. Is this something that he overdosed? My question would be, if that's the case, where is he? I don't feel like you try to hide your body when you overdose, especially I think it would be accidental if it was in this case.
100%.
So it's like, where would he be? I mean, I know we hear of the cases that people, if he would overdose with people, they do try to hide it because they're scared of getting in trouble. But I think that would be like I think that would just be really hard. I do think it's possible, though. I do.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
But in that case, I do think if he overdosed, Tessa was probably with him.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So again, she might know. I also think it is possible that he committed suicide. I think he clearly said he didn't feel like there was a way out. And he clearly said that he was never getting out of it. And there was a lot of just really sad things he was saying to people. And he didn't think he was going to be any better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it makes me sad, but it's true. And so again, I don't think you intentionally hide yourself if you're going to commit suicide, though. So it would be, where is he? Where is he? You know, but I don't know. But I do pretty much believe, and again, all alleged, that he fell victim of the domestic violence pattern. And I don't think, if that's the case, that it was intentional. I think in those situations, it's usually not. Even in some cases that we've covered, you know, I even kind of think that sometimes about Brenda Lambert. Like,
100%.
Did it just get too much? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, did he... I could see how it was planned, though, with that one. But I could also see it being like, oh, it just got too heated one time, and it was too much. You know what I mean?
That's in a case that happened down here that we'll talk about later. But yeah, I think something got too heated and it kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what happened here, which is really sad. And I think that would carry a lot of guilt. And I think not in my words, but with Tessa, people have said she just spiraled out. Like, you know, like it was like she was trying to act cool, but it's clear things have gotten exponentially worse with Tessa. Yeah. And in that case, I could see how she would be like, it wasn't my fault. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't mean to, or something like that, you know? And it makes me really sad to think that, you know, in that case, I don't know if anybody would ever admit it. Yeah. But that is pretty much everything I have on him. I mean, there's multiple outlets still looking into his case. His case is active. There's multiple nonprofits. There's search and rescue teams volunteering their time. Mediums and higher power individuals have also tried to look into it for people. I mean, obviously, I'm going my rounds telling his story. I mean, there's a lot of people still trying really hard to look into this, and that's awesome because I don't feel like men get that very much.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Men just don't. And but yeah, so the police have kind of danced around the idea that until they talk to Tessa, there's not much else they can do, and I kind of get that. I think you would have to have an interview with her to kind of be able to navigate anything else. But that just doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
And I mean, there's not enough evidence. They can't put like a warrant out to like bring her in.
No.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. But Chloe desperately wants to know what happened to her dad.
Of course. And I mean, she deserves to know.
Yes. So it's like that's my biggest drive in this is, yes, I want to know what happened to Jack, but I want so desperately to help that poor girl get answers, you know? So if you have any information, please get a hold of the West Virginia State Police, Trooper Brandon Hunt at the South Charleston Detachment at 304-558-7777. Sally Hatton is also listed on NamUs, so you can get a hold of her too. And for whatever reason, if you would need Jack's NamUs number, it is MP105024.
His case, I swear.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, me and Courtney watched your video, and we're like, this is a lot, but like, hearing all of this.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was hard because until my video, there was no place that just had one area of Jack's case. So it
Yeah.
was so hard. I mean, I spent like 8 months
I believe it.
looking into this, because it was like there was a little bit here and a little bit here, and then there's 20 different people here that had talked to him, and then there was like 10 people here that had maybe not talked to him but had talked to Tessa or talked to Rachel, or just talking in general, people wanting to talk in general about Jack to me. I mean, it was honestly exhausting. I'm not gonna lie.
I believe it. Trust me.
Yeah, but it was a lot. And yeah, when you finally sit down, think about that. Like, I mean, you were watching the outline with me. To think there was that much and there was no certain place that just had everything, no wonder he got looked over.
Exactly.
Because when you map it out like this, it's like, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. Something was happening, and there was a buildup. And without it being just put out like my video, I guess, like all in one area, you couldn't see that easy. You couldn't. But yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. And if you want to go watch my video, it's on YouTube.
It will be in the link.
Yeah, put the link. And I will say on my video, if you want to see Jack talking about this himself, I put a lot of the screenshots up on the screen of him talking. I do kind of crop them just for privacy of the other people he was talking to. And I'll send you those your way too if you want to use them. But yeah, so I did, for the most part, everything that I have in here that he talked about, I tried to put the screenshots up of. Yeah. So it wasn't like disputed. Like, no, this is what he meant. Like, this is literally what he said, you know? Yeah. And it's really sad. And, you know, Tessa, I'm still willing to talk to you. And I'm willing to be proven wrong. I know I do. I put her on blast a little bit. But
sometimes you have to.
Yeah. And I want people to keep an open mind, though, that if she would come out and talk about things, that it could possibly not be her and she might not be involved.
It could get the spotlight off of her and on to someone else. Yeah.
And she's innocent until proven guilty. But I think in these types of cases, you do have to go where the fire is.
Oh, yeah.
And the amount he was talking about her and, you know, how scared he was of her does say something. Like, whether that is he did this to himself because of that or something happened with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really want to thank Alexandrea again for coming in. I knew we couldn't tell Jack's case like she can. She has put so many hours into it, and let me tell you, she is going to be the reason this case is solved. So, to stay up to date with Jack's case, I'll be linking all of her socials in the show description below, so go follow her, especially her YouTube channel. We'll be back next week with a brand new case. If you find yourself enjoying Mountain State Mysteries, take a second to follow, download, and rate the show on your favorite podcast platform. It helps others find a good West Virginia true crime podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Mountain State Mysteries. Do you have a case you want us to cover? Send us an email at mountainstatemysteries304@gmail.com. For the show notes, check out our website, mountainstatemysteriespodcast.com.
you.